Hello, my name is Wyatt Carter. I'm 20 years old, a communications student at a college in Ames, Iowa. But if you ask me where I'm really from, I won't talk about the noisy streets of Mason City where I grew up, or the cramped dorm I'm currently living in. I'll tell you about an old wooden house standing alone on the edge of Clear Lake, surrounded by endless cornfields, where the sun sets in a fiery red glow like a promise of tomorrow. That's my grandmother, Helen Carter's house. And my story really begins with her. I'm not the type to dwell on the past, but every time I think about my childhood, I see myself pedaling an old bike down a 4-mile dirt road from my parents' house in Mason City to Grandma's. That road, with the summer breeze carrying the scent of dry grass and red earth, has become a part of my very being. It's where I found love, comfort, and the first scars of life. I wasn't a good kid. At school, I was the rebellious boy with mediocre grades, always getting into trouble. I once stole candy from a grocery store, got into a fight with the neighbor kid because he dared to mock me. On those occasions, my father, Gerald Carter, would drag me into a corner of the house, give me a few lashes with a leather belt, and growl, "You want to end up a thug, Wyatt?" My mother, Elaine, didn't hit me, but her disappointed gaze made me feel like a broken toy she didn't know how to fix. In those moments, all I wanted was to run away. And I did, on that rickety bike, straight to Grandma's house. Grandma Helen was the only one who never looked at me like a failure. She lived alone in a small wooden house with a weathered tile roof and creaky windows that rattled in the wind. The house wasn't anything fancy. Just a simple home with the smell of old wood and the faint aroma of simmering chicken soup. But to me, it was paradise. Every time I arrived, she'd be standing on the porch wearing a faded green apron, her gentle smile like winter sunlight. "Wyatt, my boy, what trouble have you stirred up now?" she'd ask, her tone free of judgment. Then she'd pull me into the kitchen, set a steaming bowl of chicken soup in front of me, filled with sweet corn kernels that glistened like gems. "Eat up? Then tell me about it. This soup can fix any sorrow, you know that." I don't know if Grandma's soup really had magic, but every spoonful seemed to melt away the sting of the belt, my parents scolding, or the scornful looks from kids at school. I'd sit there in her cozy kitchen, bathed in the warm orange glow of a hanging lamp, pouring out everything, from breaking a classroom window to getting punished to stand in the corner for not memorizing my multiplication tables. She never interrupted, never judged. She just listened, nodding occasionally, then shared stories of her own. Grandma Helen had been a dreamy young woman working as a waitress at a small diner in Clear Lake. She'd recount those days with sparkling eyes as if reliving her youth. Back then, I wore a checkered dress, hair tied up high, rushing between tables, smiling even when my feet were sore. Everyone liked me because I told good jokes. But then she met my grandfather, a tall, quiet coal miner. They fell in love, got married, and had 3 children. My father Gerald, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia. Life seemed like it would be smooth until the day my grandfather died in a mining accident. Her voice grew heavy as she told me. That evening I stood at the door waiting for my husband to come home for dinner. But only men from the mining company came telling me he was gone. At 32, Grandma Helen was left to raise 3 children alone. No money, no family to lean on, just her hands and unyielding determination. She worked as a waitress by day, sewed clothes at night, and did whatever it took to keep her kids fed. "There was a time when all I had was a loaf of bread and some butter," she said. "I sliced it thin, spread the butter, and told the kids it was a royal feast. Gerald, your father, believed it and ate happily." Hearing this, I felt a pang for her, but she just smiled. "It wasn't suffering, Wyatt. It was love. When you love someone, you'll do anything to make them happy." Those summers with Grandma were the best times of my life. I remember waking up in the small attic room, sunlight streaming through the wooden slats, warming the old blanket she'd tucked me in with. I'd run downstairs to find her kneading dough for cornbread. We'd go out to the garden, pulling weeds, watering the vegetable patches, then lie on the grass, watching clouds drift by. She taught me how to sense the wind shifting, how to listen to birds to predict rain. "You have to learn to hear the world, Wyatt," she said. "It'll tell you secrets that books can't." But my childhood wasn't always full of sunshine. Some days I biked to Grandma's not because I missed her, but because I couldn't stand the atmosphere at home. My father, Gerald, was strict, but sometimes I felt he didn't love me. He worked at a factory making farm equipment, coming home exhausted and irritable. My mother, Elaine, was busy with her office job, rarely home. They never asked what I wanted or how I felt. Whenever I messed up, they'd yell or punish me. Once I broke my mom's favorite vase. She screamed, "Wyatt, why are you so clumsy? You can't do anything, right?" I ran out of the house, tears streaming down my face, pedaling to Grandma's in a mix of anger and hurt. Grandma Helen was always there, like a lighthouse in the dark. She didn't ask much, just held me close, letting me cry until I was exhausted. Then she'd lead me to the kitchen, place a bowl of soup in front of me. "You're not a mistake, Wyatt," she'd say. "You're a special boy. One day you'll do great things, but for now, just eat." I didn't know how she could believe in me when I didn't even believe in myself. Over those years, I came to realize that Grandma Helen wasn't just my grandmother. She was my best friend, my teacher, the one place I found safety that I couldn't find anywhere else. But I also started to notice something. She lived alone, and her children, my father Gerald, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia, rarely visited. I once asked her, "Why doesn't Dad come here more? Where are Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia?" She gave a sad smile. "They're busy, Wyatt. Everyone has their own life. But I have you, and that's enough." I didn't fully understand. How could they leave her alone? My father always said she was stubborn, refusing to move in with family because she wanted to stay in that old house full of memories. Uncle Douglas lived in Chicago doing something with real estate, rarely calling. Aunt Patricia was closer, but she had 2 young kids and was always busy. Watching Grandma quietly clean the house, cook, and tend her garden, I promised myself, when I grow up, I'll never leave her alone. But life is never as simple as a child's promise. When I turned 18, I left Mason City to attend college in Ames. That day, standing at the campus gate with an old suitcase, I felt like a fledgling leaving the nest. Ames was a small city, but to me it was vast and unfamiliar compared to anywhere I'd ever known. The red brick buildings, oak-lined streets, and the constant buzz of students in the dorms left me both excited and anxious. I was no longer the rebellious kid from Mason City, but I still didn't know who I was going to become. My dorm was a small room with peeling white paint, a creaky bunk bed, and a worn wooden desk by the window. My roommate, Jake, was a lanky engineering major who always had earphones on and his face glued to his laptop. Jake was friendly, but we didn't quite click. He loved blasting rock music and staying up late gaming, while I just wanted quiet to figure out what to do with my life. I chose communications because it sounded cool. I liked the idea of telling stories, making videos, or maybe even becoming a famous YouTuber. But in reality, I had no idea where to start. Those early days in Ames felt isolating. Lectures on communication theory, journalism history, or script writing made me yawn. I wasn't great at socializing, had few friends, and every time I passed through the campus cafeteria, I felt invisible in the crowd. I missed home, the afternoons biking down the dirt road to Grandma Helen's, the smell of her chicken soup, and her soothing voice. But Mason City was over 100 miles from Ames, and I couldn't just hop on a bus every weekend. All I could do was call her, usually at night, lying on my bed staring at the ceiling. "You doing okay, Wyatt?" she'd ask over the phone, her voice as warm as ever. "Yeah, I'm fine," I'd reply, though I felt hollow inside. "It's just, I don't know if I belong here. Everyone seems to know what they want, but I don't." She'd chuckle softly as if I'd said something silly. "Wyatt, nobody knows what they want at 18. Just live, try things, stumble. You'll find your path, but remember, if you're tired, come back to me. My soup's waiting for you." Her words were like medicine, pulling me out of my loneliness. Then one night, while scrolling on my phone to kill time, I decided to start a new YouTube channel. I wasn't one to chase trends, but I noticed classmates making short, goofy videos, dancing or pulling pranks for views. I thought, why not give it a shot? I've got nothing to lose. So I started filming silly videos, me pretending to be a news anchor with an exaggerated voice, or me crashing my bike on the way to class with funny sound effects added. I didn't expect much, just a way to release the pent-up frustration inside. My first video got a few dozen views, mostly from Jake and some old friends from Mason City, but it made me happy. For the first time, I felt like I was creating something, even if it was just 15-second clips. I started posting more regularly, little stories about student life, funny classroom moments, or me ranting in the cafeteria about the school's bland mashed potatoes. Slowly, my YouTube channel gained a few hundred subscribers. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to make me feel like I wasn't invisible. I made it a point to visit Grandma Helen at least once a month. The 4-mile road from Mason City to Clear Lake felt longer now, but returning to her old wooden house was as familiar as ever. She was still there, still wearing her faded green apron, still cooking chicken soup with sweet corn kernels. But I started to notice she was aging. Her silver hair was thinner. Her hands trembled when she kneaded dough, and she'd often sit quietly on the porch, staring out at the cornfields. I'd ask, "Are you okay, Grandma? Why don't you ask Dad or Uncle Douglas to fix that broken fence?" She'd just shake her head. "They're busy, Wyatt. I can manage." I didn't want to press her, but I knew she was lonely. My father, Gerald, was now a manager at the factory, always tied up with meetings. My mother, Elaine, was still busy with her office job and socializing with friends. Uncle Douglas rarely came back to Iowa, sending only a few Christmas cards each year. Aunt Patricia was nearby but preoccupied with her 2 young kids, and the last time I heard her talk about Grandma, she complained that Grandma was stubborn for not selling the wooden house to move to the city. It made me angry, but I didn't know what to do except spend more time with her. One day while visiting, I got the idea to film a YouTube video with Grandma. I thought it'd be fun and might make her smile. I set up my phone on the kitchen table, hit record, and said, "Grandma, I want to film you making soup. Just do what you always do and I'll add some fun music." She was shy, waving me off. "Oh, Wyatt, I'm too old for this. Who'd want to watch?" But I begged, and she finally agreed, muttering, "You're such a fool." The first video showed Grandma Helen in the kitchen, slowly stirring a pot of soup, telling stories about her days as a waitress. I added upbeat music and a caption, "My Grandma and Her Soul-Healing Soup. Publicado." I didn't expect much, but the video got over 2,000 views overnight. The comments flooded in. "Your grandma is so sweet. Can you share the soup recipe? She reminds me of my grandma." I read them to her, and she just laughed, her eyes sparkling. Kids these days are strange. They like watching an old lady cook. From then on, I filmed more videos with her. Sometimes she'd teach me how to knead cornbread dough. Other times she'd talk about Grandpa, or she'd sit on the porch knitting a sweater. Each video had a strange charm, not because of my editing or effects, but because of her simplicity, sincerity, and the love in every word she spoke. My YouTube channel grew to 10,000, then 20,000 subscribers. I started getting messages from strangers saying my videos with Grandma reminded them of their families or hometowns. One girl wrote, "Watching your grandma makes me call my mom. Thank you." I read it to Grandma and she said, "Well, then I've done something good, Wyatt." But life in Ames wasn't just about fun YouTube videos. School got tougher. I worked part-time at a campus coffee shop to cover rent and tuition since my parents weren't well off. Late-night shifts left me exhausted and I started skipping classes. My grades slipped, just like they did back in my rebellious Mason City days. I was scared I'd fail again, like my father always warned. In those moments, I'd call Grandma. She never scolded me, just said, "You're doing fine, Wyatt. Go slow, but don't stop." One late autumn evening, as I was tying my apron, getting ready for my shift at the coffee shop, my phone buzzed. Grandma Helen's name lit up the screen. I smiled, thinking she was calling to share a funny story or check in on my life in Ames. But when I answered, her voice wasn't the same. It was frail, trembling as if she was holding something back. "Wyatt," she said, I need someone to talk to. Are you free?" My heart sank. She rarely spoke like that. "Grandma, are you okay? Where are you?" I asked, my voice urgent. "I'm at a small motel in Mason City," she replied, her voice fading. I just left your parents' house. I need to see you." I didn't ask more. A wave of dread washed over me like something terrible was happening. I untied my apron, rushed to my boss, and begged off my shift. "I have a family emergency," I said, not waiting for his approval before bolting out. I caught the last bus from Ames to Mason City, huddling in the back seat, staring at the shadowy cornfields in the dark. During the 2-hour ride, I called Grandma again, but she didn't pick up. I texted my dad, my mom, asking what was wrong with her, but no one replied. A helpless feeling choked me. I just wanted to get there fast to make sure she was okay. When the bus stopped in Mason City, it was late. Grandma had texted me the address of a small motel on the outskirts where the streetlights were dim and the air was biting cold. I took a taxi there, my heart pounding. The motel was a row of rundown rooms with peeling walls and a faint, musty smell. I knocked on her door, calling softly, "Grandma, it's me." The door opened and there she stood, her frail frame hunched, silver hair disheveled, eyes red as if she'd been crying. She wore an old sweater, clutching a small cloth bag like she'd just fled from somewhere. "Wyatt," she whispered, hugging me. "You came." I guided her to the single bed in the cramped motel room where the fluorescent light made her face look even paler. "Grandma, what's going on? Why are you here instead of at home?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though my mind was in turmoil. She was silent for a moment, then sighed, her voice trembling. "Wyatt, I'm sick. The doctor says I have kidney failure and need regular dialysis. I didn't know what to do, so I went to your parents' house for help." I gripped her hand, feeling her thin, cold fingers. "And then what? What did Mom and Dad say? Where are Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia?" She lowered her head, lips pressed tight as if the words pained her. "I went to your father's house in Mason City. I told Gerald about my illness. I didn't ask for much, just some support, a place to stay, or someone to help me get to the hospital. Gerald called a family meeting, bringing in Douglas and Patricia." I nodded, waiting for her to continue, but her voice broke. "At the meeting, no one wanted to help, Wyatt. Gerald said they were struggling, that dialysis costs were too high and he couldn't afford it. Douglas said he was busy with a project in Chicago. His wife was about to give birth and he had no time. Patricia said she had her 2 kids to take care of and couldn't look after me. They told me I should go to a nursing home, sell the wooden house, make things easier." I felt my blood boil. "They said that?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "They're your children. How could they say those things?" She stood up, stepping toward the door. "I understand, Wyatt," she said softly. "They have their own lives, their own struggles. I don't blame them. But when they said those things, I just got up and left. I didn't want to stay where I felt like a burden." I hugged her, tears streaming down my face. I couldn't believe my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia, the children she'd sacrificed her life to raise, could turn their backs on her. I remembered her stories, the nights she stayed up sewing to earn money, the bread and butter she called a royal feast, so her kids wouldn't feel hungry. And now, when she needed them most, they made excuses, refused, and left her alone in this cold motel room. "Grandma, I won't let you be alone," I said firmly. "I'll take you to Ames to live with me. I'll take care of you no matter how hard it is." She looked at me, eyes glistening. "Wyatt, you're young, still in school, working. I don't want you to suffer because of me." "I'm not suffering," I replied, holding her hand tighter. "You're the most important person to me. I won't let you go to a nursing home or live alone. We're family, remember?" She smiled, a weak but loving smile. "You're such a fool, Wyatt. The next day, I went to Clear Lake to pack her things, a few clothes, her faded green apron, and the old pot she used for soup. We took a bus back to Ames to my tiny dorm room. Jake, my roommate, had moved out to live with his girlfriend, so it was just me and Grandma. The room was cramped with a bunk bed, a small desk, and a tiny kitchen corner. Every morning I woke up early, made coffee for her, then rushed to classes or work. In the evenings, I took her to the hospital for dialysis. Those days weren't easy. I was exhausted, tuition debts piled up, and my YouTube channel, once full of joyful videos with Grandma, sat neglected. But every time I saw her sitting in the corner, knitting or cooking chicken soup with the few ingredients we had, I knew I'd made the right choice. She tried not to be a burden. She cleaned the room, folded my clothes, and sometimes when I came back from classes, she'd have a bowl of hot soup waiting. "You're getting thin, Wyatt," she'd say, setting the bowl in front of me. "Eat, then tell me about your day." I'd eat, and like when I was a kid, all my exhaustion seemed to melt away in the sweet flavor of corn and chicken. But deep inside, my anger simmered. I couldn't forgive my father, Uncle Douglas, or Aunt Patricia. They'd abandoned her, the mother who'd given them everything. I vowed to myself, I'll never be like them. I'll give Grandma a better life no matter what it takes. I didn't know how, but I knew I had to try. Several months passed and life for Grandma and me grew increasingly challenging. The cost of her dialysis was like a heavy stone on my shoulders. Each hospital bill felt suffocating. My part-time job at the coffee shop barely covered rent and food, and I was months behind on tuition. I tried to hide it from Grandma, not wanting her to worry, but she seemed to see right through me. One evening, as I sat at my desk, hunched over, calculating our finances, she placed her hand on my shoulder. "Wyatt," she said softly, "you don't have to carry this alone. If it's too hard, I'll find a way." "No, Grandma," I replied firmly. "I promise to take care of you, and I will." But deep down, I was scared. I didn't know how to keep that promise. One morning, as I was getting ready for class, Grandma suddenly said, "Wyatt, I want to do something. I don't want to sit here all day being a burden to you." I was stunned. "Grandma, you need to rest. You're sick." "I've rested enough," she said, her voice resolute. "I used to be a waitress, raised 3 kids alone. I'm not useless. Do you know anywhere that needs help? Something light, I can handle it." I shook my head, not wanting her to work. But her eyes, strong, determined, made it impossible to refuse. I thought of the college cafeteria where I ate lunch. They were always short-staffed, especially in the back kitchen, washing dishes or prepping ingredients. "I'll ask around," I said, though I was still worried she wasn't strong enough. The next day, I took her to the cafeteria and introduced her to Mary, the manager. Mary was a middle-aged woman with her hair tied high, always smiling but strict about work. I briefly explained Grandma's situation, emphasizing that she only needed light tasks, like kitchen prep or cleaning. Mary looked at her, then at me, skepticism in her eyes. "You sure she can handle it? It's busy here, not a place to rest." "My grandma was a waitress her whole life," I said proudly. "She's tougher than you think." Grandma Helen smiled and added, "Mary, I'm not as quick as I used to be, but I know how to work. Just give me a chance." Mary nodded, agreeing to let Grandma try out for a few days, helping in the kitchen with tasks like washing vegetables, chopping ingredients, and cleaning. Those first days, I was a nervous wreck. I worried she'd tire herself out or couldn't handle the job's demands. But every time I stopped by the cafeteria after class, I saw her in the corner of the kitchen, wearing a white apron, slowly peeling potatoes or picking through greens, humming an old tune. The other kitchen staff grew fond of her. They called her Grandma Helen affectionately. And one young chef teased, "Grandma, you work slow but steady. We're learning from you." She seemed to find new life. Every evening when I picked her up, she'd tell me about the cafeteria staff, the dishes they made, and how they got sandwiches wrong. "They put too much mayonnaise, Wyatt," she said, shaking her head. "A good sandwich needs balance, you know." I laughed, seeing her come alive again, even though her hands still trembled when she held a spoon. Then one day, an opportunity came, unexpected like a ray of sunlight through dark clouds. It was a Friday, and the cafeteria was packed with students for a basketball event. Mary was short-staffed, and the kitchen was chaos. In the middle of the frenzy, Mary turned to Grandma Helen, half joking, "Helen, you were a waitress, so you must know how to cook something good, right? We're short a soup today. Got any special recipes?" Grandma glanced at me as if seeking approval. I nodded, smiling. "Grandma, make your chicken soup. No one does it better." She was shy, but Mary clapped her on the shoulder. "Give it a shot, Helen. If the students like it, I'll pay you extra today." Grandma got to work. I watched as she carefully gathered ingredients: a bit of chicken, a few potatoes, a handful of sweet corn, and some parsley from the kitchen's stash. She stirred the pot on the stove, her eyes focused like an artist painting a beloved masterpiece. The aroma wafted through the cafeteria, sweet and warm, making even the kitchen staff pause to breathe it in. When the soup was done, Mary took a spoonful, her eyes lighting up. "Helen, this is amazing. It's going on the menu now." That day, Grandma's chicken soup was served as a special. Hundreds of students lined up, curious to try the Grandma Helen soup scrawled on the menu board. I stood in a corner of the cafeteria watching as they took their bowls, tasted it, and nodded in approval, whispering to their friends. A group of girls near me squealed, "Oh my gosh, this is so good. Who made this?" A guy in a baseball cap shouted, "Can I get another bowl?" Laughter and chatter filled the cafeteria, and I saw Grandma at the counter, her face flushed with embarrassment, but her eyes sparkling with pride. I couldn't resist. I pulled out my phone and filmed a short video capturing Grandma stirring the pot and the students lining up eating happily. I added a caption, "My grandma's soul-healing soup is back." I posted it on YouTube that night, barely editing, just adding soft background music. I didn't expect much, just thought it was a sweet memory to keep. But the next morning when I checked my phone, I was floored. The video had over 50,000 views, hundreds of comments, and the numbers kept climbing. "Your grandma is so adorable," one person wrote. "This soup looks amazing. Where's the recipe?" another asked. Someone even commented, "Your grandma should open a restaurant. I'd eat there every day." My heart raced as I read each comment. I ran to Grandma, who was knitting in the corner, and read the praise aloud. She laughed, waving me off. "These kids are so strange. It's just a pot of soup." But it wasn't just a pot of soup. It was the start of something bigger, an opportunity I'd never dared to dream of. The video kept spreading, hitting 100,000, then 200,000 views. My YouTube channel exploded, jumping from 20,000 to 50,000 subscribers in days. Students at school started recognizing me, calling me Grandma Helen's grandson. Mary, the cafeteria manager, even asked Grandma to make the soup regularly since students kept asking for it. I started filming again, capturing Grandma working in the cafeteria, sharing her stories, and teaching me to cook. Each video got thousands of likes and hundreds of comments. I realized it wasn't just her food people loved, it was her. Her simplicity, sincerity, and love in everything she did. I also began sharing our story, how she came to live with me, the challenges we faced. I didn't go into detail about my parents, Uncle Douglas, or Aunt Patricia's neglect, but I said she was the most important person to me, and I was doing everything to give her a better life. The comments started to change. They weren't just about the soup anymore, but were filled with encouragement and personal stories from strangers. One wrote, "I have a grandma like that, but I'm far away. Your videos remind me to call her." Another messaged, "You're amazing for taking care of her. I want to help you both." I read these to Grandma, and she just smiled, saying, "See, Wyatt? Love always finds a way." I didn't know then that from that pot of soup, from that video, a new door was opening. The YouTube community, my school friends, and even strangers were starting to notice our story. A spark had ignited, and for the first time I felt I could keep my promise to Grandma. To give her a better life, not just with love, but with a real opportunity. The video of Grandma Helen's chicken soup changed everything. Within a week, my YouTube channel skyrocketed from 50,000 subscribers to nearly 100,000. Every day I received dozens of messages from strangers not just praising Grandma's food but sharing their own personal stories. But it wasn't just encouragement. One morning, as I checked my phone before class, a YouTube comment stopped me in my tracks. A user named @Iowa Dreamer wrote, "Wyatt, you and your grandma deserve a little diner to sell this soup. I want to contribute money to help you both. Is there a way to donate?" I reread the comment, unable to believe my eyes. Contribute money? For me and Grandma? I'd never considered that. The idea of opening a diner felt like a distant dream when I was struggling to pay rent and hospital bills. I replied to the comment, thanking them but unsure of what to do next. I turned to Grandma. "Someone wants to donate money for us to open a diner. They say your soup is worth selling." She looked up, surprised. "A diner? Oh, Wyatt, I'm too old for that." "Don't say that," I said firmly. "People love your food. They love you. I think we should try." She looked at me, then gave a soft smile. "You're such a fool. But if you want to, I'll support you. Just don't let me overwork myself." I started thinking seriously. Opening a small diner wasn't simple. It required money, a plan, a space. I knew nothing about business, just a communications student drowning in tuition debt. But the idea clung to me like a small flame that wouldn't go out. I decided to share it on YouTube. I filmed a short video in our cramped dorm room with Grandma in the background kneading dough. Facing the camera, I said, "You all loved my grandma's soup. Some of you asked if we could open a small diner. I don't know where to start, but if you want to help, we'd be so grateful." This is our story. I briefly shared how Grandma was sick, how I brought her to live with me, and my dream of giving her a better life. I posted the video, heart pounding, unsure if anyone would care. The next morning, I nearly dropped my phone. The video had over 300,000 views. Comments flooded in. "I want to donate. That soup needs its own diner. Grandma Helen is a treasure. Open that restaurant." One user suggested, "Why not start a GoFundMe? I'd donate right away." I'd never heard of GoFundMe, but I looked it up and created a page titled, "Help Grandma Helen Open a Small Diner." I set a modest goal of $5,000, enough for a small space and initial ingredients. I shared the link on YouTube, thinking a few $100s would be a miracle. What happened blew my mind. Within 48 hours, the GoFundMe raised over $2,000 from strangers across Iowa, California, even the UK and Australia. One person donated $50, writing, "For Grandma Helen, who reminds me of family." Another sent $100, saying, "I want to eat that soup someday." I read the messages to Grandma, and she sat there, eyes misty. "Wyatt," she said, "I never thought people would care about me like this." The support didn't stop at YouTube. At school, the story of Grandma Helen spread fast. One afternoon, as I was in the cafeteria, a classmate named Mia pulled me aside. Mia, a business major, always wore crisp white shirts, her hair tied high, with sharp eyes that suggested she always knew what she was doing. "Wyatt," she said, "I saw your YouTube video. Are you serious about opening a diner?" "Yeah, I want to try," I replied, a bit shy. "But I don't know how to start. I'm clueless about business." Mia smiled. "Lucky for you, I'm not. I can help you write a business plan. You need to figure out what the diner will sell, the costs, and how to attract customers. You've already got a brand, Grandma Helen and her soup." I was stunned by her enthusiasm. "Why do you want to help? You barely know me." Mia shrugged. "I like your story with your grandma. It's real. Plus, I need a real-world project for my business class. This is a win-win." I nodded, feeling like I'd found an unexpected ally. Mia got to work immediately. She spent hours with me in the cafeteria, sketching a business plan in a notebook. We decided the diner would be called Grandma Helen's, focusing on her chicken soup and a grilled meat sandwich she used to make when she was younger, with tender meat, fresh veggies, and a special sauce she crafted. Mia calculated costs, renting a small space near campus, buying ingredients and simple decor. "You'll need about $10,000 to start," she said. "Your GoFundMe is on track, but you'll need more support." Meanwhile, other school friends joined in. Ryan, a graphic design major, volunteered to create a logo. He sat with me and Grandma one afternoon sketching ideas. "It should be simple," he said. "Maybe Grandma Helen holding a pot of soup with Grandma Helen's in soft handwritten style text." Grandma laughed at the first sketch. "Oh, Wyatt, I look like a witch brewing a potion." But when Ryan finalized the logo, a warm image of her by a pot with gentle handwritten text, she nodded. "It's beautiful. Thank you, Ryan." The community's support overwhelmed me. The GoFundMe hit $8,000 in 2 weeks, and I started searching for a space to rent. I found a small shop near campus, previously a bakery that had closed. It wasn't big, just enough for 10 tables, but it had a small kitchen and windows overlooking an oak-lined street. I took Grandma to see it, and she stood in the empty space, eyes shining. "Wyatt," she said, "I never thought I'd have a diner. But if we do this, I want it to feel like my Clear Lake kitchen. Warm, simple, a place where people feel at home." We started preparing. Mia helped me negotiate with the landlord for the lowest possible rent. Ryan printed posters and the logo to hang in the diner. I filmed YouTube updates, thanking everyone for their support and sharing our progress. Each video got thousands of likes, and the GoFundMe climbed to $12,000. I used the money to buy basic kitchen equipment, ingredients, and pay the first month's rent. Grandma Helen, despite her frail health, came to help every day. She taught me how to pick fresh corn, grill meat to keep it tender, and mix her special sandwich sauce. "Don't use too much mayonnaise, Wyatt," she warned sternly. "Customers won't like it." The opening day of Grandma Helen's was unforgettable. We opened on a crisp Saturday morning, the sky clear and the air fresh. I stood at the counter, trembling with nerves, while Grandma stirred a pot of soup in the kitchen. Ryan hung a wooden sign out front engraved with "Grandma Helen's, where love becomes food." Mia stood outside, handing out flyers to passing students. I wasn't sure anyone would come, but within 30 minutes, the diner was packed. Students, professors, even locals lined up to try the soup and sandwiches. Laughter and chatter filled the air, and the aroma of chicken soup wafted through the space. A group of students cheered after tasting the soup. "This is just like in the video." An elderly woman from Ames with silver hair like Grandma's held her hand and said, "You remind me of my mother." "Thank you." Grandma stood at the counter, blushing but beaming with happiness. I filmed a short video capturing the bustling crowd and Grandma smiling with customers, posting it on YouTube with the caption, "Grandma Helen's First Day." Thank you all. The video hit 500,000 views overnight. Just 1 month after the grand opening, my YouTube channel hit 300,000 subscribers. Every video I posted, whether it was Grandma stirring soup, teaching me how to grill meat, or simply sitting by the diner's window knitting and chatting with customers, racked up millions of views. I started getting messages from other YouTubers wanting to visit and film at the diner. One named Foodie Vibes with over 500,000 followers messaged me. "Wyatt, I want to come to Ames to review Grandma Helen's. Your grandma's soup is blowing up online." I agreed immediately, though my heart raced with nerves. The day Foodie Vibes arrived, the diner was busier than usual. Ethan, a young guy with green-dyed hair and a camera always in hand, walked in with a huge grin. "Grandma Helen!" he called out, as if he'd known her forever. She waved him off, embarrassed. "Oh, you, don't film me, I'm no actress." But Ethan was charming, filming her making soup, interviewing her about the recipe's origins, and capturing the long line of customers outside. When Ethan posted his video on YouTube, it hit over 1 million views in 3 days. He also shared our GoFundMe link, and donations soared to $20,000. I couldn't believe my eyes. "Grandma," I said, hugging her, "we're going to be rich." She laughed heartily, patting my back. "Rich, my foot, Wyatt. I just want to cook for people, that's enough. But the attention didn't stop there. One afternoon, as I was clearing tables, a man in a suit walked in. He introduced himself as Tom Carver, a food investor from Des Moines who'd seen my YouTube videos. "Wyatt," he said, his voice calm and confident. "I tried your grandma's soup this morning. It's not just delicious, it has soul. I want to invest in Grandma Helen's, turn it into a chain of diners. What do you think?" I was stunned, unsure how to respond. A chain? I was just a 20-year-old student who'd never imagined anything beyond keeping this small diner running. I glanced at Grandma, who was at the counter chatting with a group of students. "Mr. Tom, I need to talk to my grandma," I said. "This is her dream and I want her to agree." That evening, I told Grandma about Tom's offer. She sat in a wooden chair in the diner, holding a cup of tea, her eyes distant. "Wyatt," she said, "I never thought I'd do anything big. I just wanted to cook and make people happy. But if you think this is good for us, I'll support it. Just promise me one thing. Don't let the diner lose its soul." I nodded, feeling like I was at a major crossroads. "I promise, Grandma. Grandma Helen's will always be a place where people feel at home." We met Tom again a few days later. He laid out a plan. Opened 2 more locations in Des Moines and Iowa City, designed to mirror the original, simple, cozy, with chicken soup and grilled meat sandwiches as the focus. He offered an initial $100,000 investment for a 40% stake. Mia, my business major friend, joined me for the meeting, analyzing the contract and urging caution. "This is a huge opportunity, Wyatt," she said, "but you need to keep control. Don't let them turn Grandma Helen's into a soulless fast food chain." With Mia's help, I negotiated to retain 60% ownership and control over the menu. Tom agreed and we signed the contract. I felt like I was stepping into a new world, both thrilled and terrified. Meanwhile, another surprise came. A local Iowa TV station, KCCI, contacted me. They wanted to invite Grandma and me onto a talk show to share the story of Grandma Helen's. "You and your grandma are inspiring so many people," the producer said over the phone. "We want our audience to hear about your journey." I agreed, though I was nervous enough to shake. I'd never been on TV, and Grandma always shied away from cameras. But when I told her, she just laughed. "If you want to, I'll go. Just don't let them make me wear anything flashy." On the day of the talk show, we were driven to a small studio in Des Moines. Grandma wore her favorite green sweater, her silver hair neatly tied back, looking simple yet radiant with warmth. I wore a white shirt Mia insisted I buy, my hands trembling as we entered the set. The host, a woman named Sarah, greeted us with a bright smile. "Wyatt, Grandma Helen, you're Iowa's inspiration," she said, prompting loud applause from the audience. The interview started lightly. Sarah asked about the soup, the diner, and how YouTube had changed our lives. I shared about the tough times, bringing Grandma to live with me and the community's support. Grandma sat beside me, smiling, occasionally chiming in. "Wyatt's a foolish boy, but he's got a big heart." The audience laughed and I felt my face flush. Then Sarah asked a question that caught both Grandma and me off guard. "Grandma Helen, what keeps you cooking even with your health struggles?" Grandma paused, her eyes distant. "I cook because it's how I love," she said. "Back then I cooked for my kids so they wouldn't go hungry. Now I cook for Wyatt, for the students, to make them feel warm. Sometimes a bowl of soup says more than words." The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. I looked at Grandma, her eyes misty, and I couldn't hold back my own tears. Sarah smiled, saying, "Grandma Helen, you're a treasure. And Wyatt, you're an incredible grandson." I held her hand, feeling like the world was watching us, but in that moment it was just me and her, like the days in her Clear Lake kitchen. The interview aired a few days later, sparking a social media frenzy. Our little diner became more than a student hangout, drawing customers from across Iowa. Some drove hours from Cedar Rapids, even Chicago, to try the soup and meet Grandma. Revenue soared, enough to pay off my tuition debt and cover her dialysis costs. I hired more staff so she wouldn't overwork, but she still loved standing at the counter chatting with customers. "Wyatt," she said once, "I never thought I'd live to see this day. Thank you." But not everything was perfect. As the diner grew more famous, the pressure mounted. I juggled school, managing the diner, and caring for Grandma. Some nights I stayed up late, reviewing bills, responding to customer messages, and worrying about the future. Tom pushed to open the second location faster than planned, and I feared the diner might lose the simplicity Grandma cherished. But every time I saw her smiling with customers, I knew I couldn't stop. Grandma Helen's wasn't just a diner. It was her dream, my dream, and the dream of thousands who supported us. I began to realize that from one pot of soup, we'd built a community. But I also knew that with fame came new challenges. And those challenges didn't wait long, as one day Grandma's 3 children, my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia, suddenly appeared at the diner's door. It was a bustling Saturday afternoon at Grandma Helen's, the diner packed as usual. I was wiping down a table in the corner, sweat beading on my forehead, when the glass door swung open. In walked my father, Gerald, in a rumpled suit, Uncle Douglas in an expensive Chicago outfit, and Aunt Patricia clutching a large handbag, her face tense. I froze, still holding the rag, feeling like time had stopped. "Wyatt," my father spoke first, his voice low but awkward. "We need to talk." I glanced at Grandma Helen, who was behind the counter. Her eyes flickered with unease when she saw her 3 children. She wiped her hands on her apron and stepped forward, saying softly, "Gerald, Douglas, Patricia, why are you here?" Her voice was calm, but I could hear the hurt buried deep within, like a scar that never fully healed. I led them to a small wooden table in the back where Grandma often rested. The diner was still buzzing with customers, but I asked Mia to watch the counter for a bit. "What's this about, Dad?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, though anger simmered inside. I hadn't forgotten that family meeting in Mason City, when they turned their backs on Grandma, leaving her alone in that cold motel room. My father cleared his throat, glancing at Uncle Douglas for support. "Wyatt, we've seen how well you and Grandma are doing with the diner. We're proud of you both." He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. "We want to help. We want to be part of Grandma Helen's." Uncle Douglas jumped in, his voice smooth like a seasoned salesman. "Wyatt, you've done something incredible with this place, but you're young, inexperienced. I have connections in Chicago. I can help scale this up, bring in bigger investors. We should work together, as a family." Aunt Patricia, with a forced smile, added, "Exactly, Wyatt. Your grandma is our mother. We want to make sure she's well taken care of, and the diner, it needs someone to handle the finances. I can help with that." I sat there, staring at them, feeling like I'd just heard a bad joke. "As a family?" I echoed, my voice colder than I intended. "How can you talk about family when you abandoned her when she needed you most?" Grandma Helen placed a hand on my shoulder, her voice gentle. "Wyatt, calm down. Don't talk to your father and aunt and uncle like that." But I couldn't hold back. I stood up, looking straight into my father's eyes. "Dad, Uncle Douglas, Aunt Patricia, do you remember how Grandma came to you for help? She was sick, she needed you, and you told her to go to a nursing home. Now the diner's famous and you want to be a part of it? Do you think I'm stupid?" The air grew heavy. My father's face flushed and he stammered, "Wyatt, we were struggling back then. I was going to help your grandma, but what?" I cut him off. "But you were too busy with your own lives? She raised you all alone with no one's help. And when she needed you, you weren't there. Don't talk to me about family." Uncle Douglas frowned, his tone hardening. "Wyatt, you're being too emotional. We're her children. We have a right to be involved in this. You can't hog Grandma and her business." "Hog?" I gave a bitter laugh, anger flaring. "I took her in to live with me in a cramped dorm room when none of you cared. I paid for her dialysis, built this diner with help from strangers, not you. You have no right to demand anything." Aunt Patricia started crying, but I wasn't sure if her tears were real or fake. Wyatt, we're sorry. We were wrong. We want to make it up to her. You never visited her, never called, never checked on her. She lived alone in that wooden house for years and you didn't care. Don't talk to me about love. I was on the verge of losing it. Grandma Helen gripped my hand, pulling me back to my seat. That's enough, Wyatt, she said, her voice firm but kind. They're my children. I don't want our family fighting like this. I looked at her, my heart aching. Grandma, they don't deserve you. I heard your stories about raising them alone. I saw you cry in that motel room. I can't let them take advantage of you again. She shook her head, her eyes red. Wyatt, I know they were wrong, but I've forgiven them. I don't want to hold grudges. All I want is for you to be happy and for this diner to succeed. If my children want to help, I'll give them a chance. But you decide because you're the one who's done everything. I fell silent, torn inside. I wanted to scream at them, kick them out of the diner, but her eyes stopped me. She was always like that, always forgiving, always loving, even when it wasn't returned. I turned to my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia. If you want to help, do it sincerely. But don't think you can swoop in and profit from this business. Grandma and I built it, and we'll keep building it. My father nodded, his voice quieter. I understand, Wyatt. I'll prove it. I promise. Uncle Douglas and Aunt Patricia nodded too, but their eyes didn't inspire trust. I knew they weren't here out of love for Grandma, but for the glow of Grandma Helen's. For her sake, I agreed to give them a chance, on the condition that every decision went through me. They left after the tense conversation, promising to return to discuss details. I knew I'd have to watch them closely. Mia, who'd overheard everything from the counter, came over and patted my shoulder. You did good, Wyatt, she said. You protected Grandma and your dream. But be careful. People like that don't change easily. I nodded, feeling a new weight on my shoulders. The diner was thriving, but their appearance reminded me that success always comes with challenges. I turned to Grandma, who was wiping down the counter, and said, Grandma, I won't let anyone hurt you again, I promise. She smiled, taking my hand. I know, Wyatt. You're the man I always believed in. Her words were like medicine, soothing my anger. But I didn't expect that just a few days later another storm would hit. Not from outside, but from the very people I once called family. It was a Wednesday morning. I was helping Grandma prepare ingredients for her soup while Mia manned the cash register. My phone kept buzzing with YouTube notifications. I thought they were just comments on our latest video, but when I opened the app, I froze. A short 2-minute video was going viral, racking up over 700,000 views in just a few hours. Its title, The Truth About Grandma Helen's Family. I hit play, and my heart stopped. The video captured the conversation between me, my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia in the diner's corner from the other day. It was filmed secretly from a distance, the footage slightly blurry but the audio crystal clear. I heard my own angry voice. You think I'm stupid? You abandoned her when she needed you most, and now you want to be part of this business? Then Uncle Douglas's cold reply, We're her children, we have a right. And Aunt Patricia's fake tone, We want to make it up to her. The video ended with Grandma Helen grabbing my hand saying, Enough, Wyatt. I don't want our family fighting like this. My blood boiled. Someone in the diner that day, likely a customer, had recorded it and posted it online. The comments were a storm. These kids are shameless, one wrote. Grandma Helen deserves love, not to be used, another said. Some started digging up my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia's social media profiles, and the online community began relentlessly criticizing them. I didn't know how to feel. Part of me felt vindicated seeing the community rally around Grandma, but another part was worried. I didn't want her to endure more pain or our family drama exposed like this. I glanced at Grandma, chopping vegetables in the kitchen corner, and decided not to tell her about it. But I didn't expect that just hours later I'd face the irrational fury of my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia. First was my father. My phone rang as I was cleaning up after closing. "Wyatt," his voice seethed over the line. "What did you do? You posted that video to smear us, didn't you? You want the world to think I'm a terrible person?" "Dad, I didn't post it," I shot back, trying to stay calm. "Someone recorded it secretly, and you know what? Everything in that video is true. You abandoned Grandma." "How dare you talk to your father like that? You're just a kid using my mother to make money. Don't think you're better than me." His anger was familiar, echoing my childhood. I hung up, my hands shaking. Less than an hour later, Uncle Douglas called, his voice icy and sharp. "Wyatt, who do you think you are, letting the world humiliate me? I'll sue that diner if you don't take that video down. You're ruining my reputation in Chicago." "Uncle Douglas, you should ask yourself why your reputation's being ruined," I replied, my voice hardening. "If you cared about Grandma, you wouldn't have left her alone in that motel." Aunt Patricia called last, her voice tearful but laced with venom. "Wyatt, how could you do this to me? I just wanted to help your Grandma, and you've made me the villain. You're ungrateful." "Ungrateful?" I nearly lost it. "You know who's ungrateful? You, Dad, and Uncle Douglas. The ones who left Grandma Helen alone when she needed you most. Don't call me again. I don't want to hear from any of you." I hung up, my heart pounding. I sank to the kitchen floor, knees pulled up, feeling like the world was crushing me. I'd hoped, even just a little, that they'd apologize, show remorse for what they did to Grandma. But no, they only cared about their reputations, money, and their so-called family share. Their greed was laid bare, and I realized they'd never change. I decided to cut contact. I blocked my father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia's numbers. I didn't want them near Grandma, didn't want them hurting her again. A year passed like a dream. Grandma Helen's became a chain, with locations sprouting in Des Moines, Iowa City, and beyond. I dropped out of college, becoming the CEO and content creator, but every day I still spent time with Grandma in the small kitchen where it all began. I bought her a new house with a vibrant garden like she'd always dreamed of, and hired a private nurse to care for her. Every afternoon we sat together, eating her sweet corn chicken soup, like the days when I was a kid biking to her wooden house in Clear Lake. But this journey wasn't just about success. It taught me that family isn't just blood, it's the people who love and stand by you when you need them most. My father, Uncle Douglas, and Aunt Patricia chose to abandon Grandma. And I learned that sometimes you have to let go of toxic relationships, no matter how painful. The online community, the strangers on YouTube, became our true family, offering love and support beyond anything I'd imagined. If I could tell you one thing, it's this: cherish those who love you unconditionally and don't hesitate to stand up for them. Grandma Helen taught me that love is action. The warm bowls of soup, the sleepless nights, the forgiveness despite a broken heart. I was once a rebellious kid who thought he'd fail, but Grandma believed in me, and I learned you can do anything if you believe in yourself and have someone who believes in you. Live for the small moments, the smell of soup in the kitchen, the smile of someone you love. And remember, no matter how tough life gets, love always finds a way, just like a pot of soup carried us from a cramped dorm room to big dreams.